Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to UroNurse. I'm your host, Vic Senese. Welcome to the show. We meet every Saturday at 9 a.m. Central Time. Thanks for joining us live. We're coming to you live on YouTube, LinkedIn, X, so you can follow us anywhere you want, and of course on StreamYard. If this is your first time checking us out, be sure to check out our website at uronurse.com, the best place to go to check out all of our past episodes. Also, the best place to go to as I said, our past episode, 134 of those. Also, the best place to go to listen to us in your car. We have actually devoted a special page just to audio podcasts. We have it through Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, iHeart, and of course, Apple Podcasts. All of those are available. You can listen to the audio version in your car. It comes out about a half hour or so after every show. So we make that audio available to you guys. Now, this week, I'm going to be talking about AI. I decided to pick AI as a subject to talk about because it's everywhere and it's sneaking into healthcare. So I thought this might be a good time to really discuss what it is, how it's used, show some examples. It's going to be kind of an interesting tutorial on things that you can do with AI. We're going to really take a deep dive into this, and we're going to take a look at what we're using it for in healthcare. So hang on, strap in, because this is going to be quite a ride. Now, I'm going to be switching between some of the AI programs live. We're going to go and try to utilize some of those so you can see them in real action. Along with a lot of this presentation is actually created using AI. And I'll try to explain where I'm using AI in the presentation to give you an idea of how you can utilize this. So let's go ahead and get going here with our AI presentation. And we're going to go ahead and start out with, what the heck is this AI thing? Now, a lot of people are aware of it. I mean, it's hard to miss it nowadays, but they don't know how it really works. So I thought it might be a good way to start to go into what it actually is and kind of start from the very beginning. And how did computers get started? And really, this is all kind of began by a mathematician who worked during the World War II. Actually, the guy who solved the Enigma issue with the German translator system, a guy by the name of Alan Turing. And let's talk about him a little bit. Hey, here's AI to explain who Alan Turing is.
Alan Turing was a British mathematician and computer scientist, often considered the father of modern computing and artificial intelligence. Key contributions: breaking the Enigma code. During World War II, Turing played a crucial role at Bletchley Park, helping to crack Germany's Enigma encryption. His work significantly shortened the war and saved millions of lives. He conceptualized a theoretical machine, now called the Turing machine, that became the foundation of computer science.
So yeah, there you go. It's who Turing is, and he had a lot of contributions. One of those was a paper in the 50s called Computing, Machinery, and Intelligence. And basically what Turing went on to say is that he not only saw computers, but that computers would become so intelligent that they might be hard to distinguish between whether it's a computer or a person, and developed this test called the Turing test. And I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit about the Turing test here. Okay, sorry.
There are three participants: a human judge, a human respondent, and a machine, AI, respondent. The test is conducted via text-based communication to eliminate bias based on voice or appearance. The judge engages in separate text-based conversations with both the human and the AI. The AI's goal is to respond in a way that makes it indistinguishable from the human. The judge can ask any kind of questions to determine which is which. After a set duration, the judge must decide which participant is the AI and which is the human. If the AI successfully fools the judge a significant percentage of the time, it is considered to have passed the test.
And this Turing test is used now to test out all of our current AI systems as they're coming out to decide whether they're artificial intelligence or not. So do you ever wonder what it looks like? What's the actual AI? It's a chip. It's basically a computer chip. Most of the AI is created on these things called NVIDIA chips. And I'll tell you a little bit about how they work and what they are.
This is an individual H100 GPU or graphics processing unit, NVIDIA's AI accelerator. But in reality, It's not just a chip that comes out of a plant. It's 8 H100 GPUs combined capable of 32 floating point operations a second. It starts with an H100 GPU seen here in the form of an SXM module. 8 individual SXMs are topped with heat sinks designed to dissipate heat generated from running big AI workloads. Those are connected on a single baseboard by interconnectors, and that assembly alone weighs 60 pounds. Add CPUs and other components and a finished DGX system weighs almost 300 pounds. The most powerful large language models are trained on the NVIDIA DGX SuperPod. That is 32 DGX 8100 systems combined into what's called a scalable unit.
By the way, all that information you're hearing, that voice, that's all being synthesized through AI. Kind of crazy, isn't it? So as it mentioned, these are not just single computer chips like what you have in your home computer. These are multiple chips stacked together to create these supercomputers, and they're kept in something called a data center. And these data centers are popping up everywhere. And if you were kind of watched the news recently, they talked about a data center that's being built in Texas. So here's a little information about that.
The most significant data center currently associated with OpenAI is part of the Stargate project in Abilene, Texas, a joint venture with Oracle, SoftBank, and Crusoe Energy. This facility, under construction as of February 20, 2025, spans approximately 875 acres, roughly the size of New York's Central Park. The initial phase includes a 200-megawatt facility, with plans for 10 to 20 buildings, each about 500,000 square feet, housing millions of NVIDIA GPUs for AI workloads.
So that's where these things are kept. These big data farms are popping up everywhere to provide these AI models, because if you're providing an AI product, then you have to have all that infrastructure, and that's where some of the expense comes in. Now, the other thing you need to know about is these terms that get tossed around. LLM. What the heck's an LLM? So it's a large language model. And this is what really drives the difference between a computer where you type in some information and you get back some information, to how we talk to each other. We communicate with language, large language. So that's what these are. They're trained on something called large language models. And hey, AI, talk to us a little bit more about that.
A large language model is a type of artificial intelligence designed to understand, generate, and process human language. These models are trained on massive amounts of text data and use deep learning techniques, particularly transformers, to recognize patterns, context, and meaning in text.
And where do they get all this information? Well, they get it from everywhere. They can be fed billions, even trillions of words. So they get this large language by studying all the stuff that was ever written in mankind, all the novels, everything is digitized and fed into them. Anything that you want them to learn, they just need to know. You just send that information in and you train them. And they do this by something called neural networks. Now, it's sort of like how our brain works. We create these networks so that we, when you touch the stove and you burn your hand, you don't do it again, because there's a network that says in your brain, that's hot, don't do it. Well, it's kind of similar for this computer AI learning. And here's a little explanation about neural networks.
Neural network consists of layers of interconnected nodes, or neurons, organized into an input layer, one or more hidden layers, and an output layer. Once trained on large datasets, the neural network can make predictions or classifications, like identifying objects in photos or generating human-like text, by transforming input data into meaningful outputs through its learned internal representations, making it a cornerstone of modern AI applications.
Crazy. It's maybe tough to understand, but if it's tough for you to understand, don't feel too bad. This is a picture of Gregory Hinton. He's actually considered the godfather of AI. So Turing was the father of computers. He's the godfather of AI. He's actually one of the engineers who actually developed the algorithm that's used to train all these AI products. And I got an interview from Hinton that I'm going to play right now for you, where he kind of explains a little bit how these computers learn and think.
So even the biggest chatbots only have about 1 trillion connections in them. The human brain has about 100 trillion, and yet, in the trillion connections in a chatbot, it knows far more than you do in your 100 trillion connections, which suggests it's got a much better way of getting knowledge into those connections. We have a very good idea of sort of roughly what it's doing, but as soon as it gets really complicated, we don't actually know what's going on any more than we know what's going on in your brain. What do you mean we don't know exactly how it works? It was designed by people. No, it wasn't. What we did was we designed the learning algorithm. That's a bit like designing the principle of evolution. But when this learning algorithm then interacts with data, it produces complicated neural networks that are good at doing things, but we don't really understand exactly how they do those things. So one of the ways in which these systems might escape control is by writing their own computer code to modify themselves. And that's something we need to seriously worry about. They will be able to manipulate people. And these will be very good at convincing people because they'll have learned from all the novels that were ever written, all the books by Machiavelli, all the political conferences. They'll know all that stuff. They'll know how to do it.
Yeah, a little scary. They don't even really understand how they learn, but they just know that they learn. So one of the things that was mentioned when we were talking about that server farm was the amount of power that is utilized by these computers. They're burning up tons of electricity, and we have to kind of worry a little bit. Do we have the infrastructure? Now, this is just an example of the amount of energy that the LLMs used during their training phase. So ChatGPT, when they trained it, one of the first AI systems to come out, it took about 100 days to feed all that information in. It used enough electricity to power a small town for a year. It's a lot of juice, folks. Just to give you an idea of how much electricity things are consuming. So a small town uses about 100 to 200 gigawatts per year. Google's data center, which is all your Googles, whenever you look things up, those are using energy. And if you're using Bitcoins, those mining operations are also using a lot of electricity. Matter of fact, there's so much electricity being used by these things that they actually predict by the year 2030, the usage of electricity will double. Now, we're not going to be able to double our power plants quickly to match that need for electricity. And that's going to drive some changes in how we produce electric to power these. One of the big changes that's coming out is something called small modular reactors. And what these things are little tiny nuclear power plants. As you can kind of see from the picture on the right, the size of it compared to a human being. I mean, these are much smaller than what we typically imagine when we see a power plant. And they're going to be building these alongside of these big data farms to provide that amount of power. A small modular reactor can produce about 2,000 gigawatts per year. Now, remember, a city runs on about 200. So, I mean, a small town on about 200. So, these are significant amounts of energy, but it's going to fill that need. The other thing is it's been found to be very safe compared to things like the Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island. Hey, speaking of 3 Mile Island, Microsoft is planning to restart 3 Mile Island's reactor to help power their plants, their AI. Google's got plans to start one of these small reactors by the end of this decade. Amazon's building a plant in Pennsylvania, and Meta, which is Facebook, is also planning to have a plant. So these are going to be going up all over the place. Fear not, these are going to be far safer than what we've had in the past. Now, is it the only way to provide AI is to have these big, gigantic farms of computers? Well, no. Actually, Apple's been working on this for the past decade. And most of you that know me know I'm a big Apple fan. I have all of their devices probably. But anyway, their phone has come out with this thing called Apple Intelligence. Well, I should say their phone because it's on everything. It's on my iPad, it's on my phone, it's on my computer that I'm using right now. It's built in. So what Apple did is like I said, around a decade ago, they started something called a neural network as part of their computer chip. And this is something that's able to analyze information coming into it and learn from that information, but it's done in a very private way. The other thing is it's done in the power of a phone. So it doesn't require huge loads of power to do this. Now, it does have some limitations because AI is able to do incredible things. A lot of it can be done through the phone, but sometimes the phone has to go out to its own data centers. Apple has actually their own AI data center, and that data center is uses kind of a private, doesn't collect data on you, so it's still private. when you go out to something like ChatGPT or any of these other AI ones, they are getting information from you using it. So there's a trade-off with AI. You're divulging some information, and Apple does have the ability to go outside to those sources. Excuse me, but they always ask your permission before they do it. So Apple Intelligence has kind of got a little, I think, foot up on some of the privacy side of it, but certainly these big models are going to be crazy when I show you what they can do. So let's go look at the first one that came out. This was ChatGPT. I was lucky enough to kind of, since I'm interested in computers, to kind of get on board right away with it and started testing it early on when it first came out. It's gone through many iterations, and it's actually in its fourth 4.0 iteration now. And I think the easiest way to do this is to just kind of do a demo right from ChatGPT itself. Now I'm going to pull that in by sharing a screen here. And here's the ChatGPT. So there we go. I see it came up. So you can ask, basically it says, what can I help you with? You can ask it anything. Now, ChatGPT is going to do word things. You're going to ask it to create something and it'll do something. So I started, since I'm kind of like semi-retired now, doing more cooking than I've ever done before. I always loved to cook, but I asked it, hey, give me a chocolate chip cookie recipe. And it can make any recipe. I made a pork roast last night. It gave me the recipe. So here we go. Now you're looking at it live. This is it doing its business. So you can see it's giving me the ingredients of what you need, the instructions on how to cook it. Even tells me enjoy my homemade cookies. Now that's kind of nice that it can do that. I can take and copy and paste this and that's what I do. A lot of these recipes I just copy and paste them into a digital file so that I can look them up while I'm cooking. I use my iPad and just read them right off of there. But say I want to make it for a party, and let's see. I'm gonna say, let's feed 50 people. Oops. You can see I don't spell very well. Now I don't have to write in chocolate chip recipe for 50 people. I just say feed 50 people. And right away it knows you want to feed 50 people. Standard batch is 24. So for 50, we need 2 cookies per person. Well, I like more than 2 cookies, but anyway, so here's what it did. It multiplied everything times 4 to give us enough to make 100 cookies. So that's pretty nice that it can do that type of work for us. Very simple. Sometimes you just want to know crazy things. How long would it take if I wanted to walk from Miami, Florida, from my hometown of Chicago? And here it is. So it's saying that at a steady pace of 3 miles per hour, it would take about 450 hours or about 18 or 19 days of continuous walking. But we know that nobody can walk straight nonstop. So with rest breaks, sleeps, meals, it's going to take about 40 to 50 days if I walked, and about 8 to 10 hours per day. Things to consider. It's even telling me follow the highways or trails, avoid unsafe roads, beware of weather changes, resting, plan for food, water, and sleep. And hey, good shoes, hydration, and supplies are essential for a long trek. He even wants to know whether I'm going to really do this or not. Excuse me. But that's just kind of the business side of what you can do. Now, in medicine, in our field, maybe I want to create a patient instruction sheet on intermittent catheterization. Now, I can try to go and look this up, but I can ask ChatGPT to do this for me. And it will produce a product. And here we go. Explains what it is, what supplies are needed. Now, one thing I will warn you about with all these AIs is you need to know what it's talking about. I wouldn't rely on it if I wasn't in urology and knew how to do self-catheterization, so I can review the instructions to make sure it's accurate. There's something that they call hallucinations that AI can sometimes do where they make stuff up. I think we've read some of that stuff in the news where it's come up with false things. So you want to really be able to check this all through, but hold the catheter. Yep, everything looks good. Dispose of the catheter. Tips for success. When to call your healthcare provider. Yeah, all looks good. So I could copy this, paste it into a PDF, create a PDF, and place it. And of course, I do use that for my Uro patient. Okay. So I think that gives you a pretty good idea of what ChatGPT can do. Now I'm going to try to switch myself back into my slides here. And there we go. So now I've switched back over. Now this particular thing was just answering questions and coming up and creating stuff. But Midjourney is one of my favorites. Midjourney is art for those of us who can't draw worth a lick. That's me. It generates artwork, and it does that through using the AI to generate this artwork. It was fed all sorts of artwork, and now it's able to produce that for us. And we're going to go ahead and do a little demo of Midjourney. Before I do the demo, I'm going to just show you some of these pictures that I've made. I've got some really cool ones, and I'll show you how I made some of these with their live demo. But if I was going to do a talk on x-rays and I wanted something with a radiologist reading the x-rays, that's a pretty good picture. This is one of my favorite things is making these little Pixar things, which, kind of the Toy Story look. So with the big eyes, that's kind of cool. I'm a big fan of Bob Ross. If you don't know who Bob Ross is, he's the guy would do an oil painting in about 30 minutes. And it's always involves usually mountains and trees and water and sometimes some cabins and things. But it's really cool. Sometimes I'd like to try to use his technique and see if I could actually draw anything, because he makes it look so easy. But AI can make an artist out of me. So let's go ahead and bring in share the screen for that. And there we go. So we've got our screen. Now, this is what Midjourney looks like. Now, I should mention before I get going too far into this that I have subscriptions to these programs because they all cost money. Now, they're free versions available, so you can kind of try these. But if you're going to really get serious with it, there's limitations to what you can do with this free version. The ChatGPT is free, but it's only for a limited amount of times that you can use it, and it's based on using some of their older models than the most newest one, which is the 4.0. I like to use the 4.0, so you pay the price for that. Midjourney, the same thing. You can make like 20 pictures for free, and then after that, you're gonna have to have a membership. And that one I think cost me about $100 a year for that membership. But it gives you better things that you can try. Now, these are some of the images that people have made. So it's got a gallery. I mean, these are just stunning pictures. It's all based on what's called prompting. You basically explain how you want it to make a picture, and it'll make these pictures. So I'm going to start with, let's make an image of Taylor Swift at 70 years of age. Now, this is live, and you can see right now it's creating these. So a little bit of time. There we go. Now it starts to come up. And if you wanted to see what Taylor Swift's going to look like when she's 70, let's bring that up to full screen. There she is. Now, again, these are actual pictures that it's generating. They're not really pictures of Taylor Swift. It just knows what she looks like. And now it's aged her to get that look. I think she hopes she looks that good at 70. But really kind of crazy that it can do this. There's a lot of adjustments. Back in the day, everything you wanted it to do, you had to tell it. So for instance, if I wanted her age 70, but I like that Pixar style, I had to type in Pixar style. So I'll show you that, but you can also change the image size. So that's a 16:9, a landscape. You can go something more square, or if you want like a cell phone size image. So let's go with square. This other stuff here, stylization, gives it like how much it can do some of this thinking and through it. Weirdness and variety will change it to kind of crazy looking, how much it looks like what you asked for versus not, how much it can go off the road. But let's go ahead and bring that out here and let's see what we get when we ask it to give us picture style of Taylor Swift. There we go. Well, that one, she looks more 70, I guess, in Pixar style. I think it kind of went for the Pixar style and not so much the age. But I mean, those are really kind of some pretty cute pictures, I have to admit. And again, the simplicity back in the day, I had to tell it what this is called an aspect ratio. I had to type that in. All that stuff has to be done manually, can be done with the simple sliders. This is going to be becoming more and more common where you can do that. Now, I was telling you about my buddy Bob Ross that I like, and I'm going to show you how I made that. Let me get rid of this here. Give me a picture of a cabin on a lake in the style of Bob Ross. And I made it the 16 by 9, so it'll fill up the whole screen. Again, I'm doing this on purpose with real time because when I first started using this, it would take several minutes for this to render. You can see how fast this is able to render this. So I just love these things. So as I said, Bob Ross was really keen on oil paintings that involve mountains and streams. And by telling it what I wanted to have, it's able to do that. Let's see, there we go. Looks like he's got a hawk or something in there. Ooh, that's kind of nice, kind of a fall scene. Now I'm going to show you that the newest thing that came out with this particular program is the ability to edit these pictures. So maybe I don't want this canoe right there. So I'm going to say erase that. Let's see what we get. So yeah, a lot of customization possible there. You can see I completely got rid of that picture. Whoops. They're so close that I can't tell the difference. I was going through them and trying to figure that out. Let's see. All right. And I did show you you can use this like when you're giving talks. So as I showed you that X-ray, this is very simple. Now, image of a doctor reviewing an X-ray film, photorealistic style. You could say the style of Picasso if you wanted, but I'm going to go with photorealistic because I want it to look more like a picture, unlike if I wanted it to look like something out of Pixar. And we see those are popping up here. Like, what was it, Dr. Dougie Hooser or something? Pretty young looking doctor. Kind of interesting where it went with a black and white. Again, black and white. I have no idea where it came up with that one. So now you just got to see a hallucination because that's not an X-ray. Nice looking ring though. All right, so let's get back to our program here. So yeah, so AI is, as I said, is everywhere. I showed you the word stuff you can write to have it create things like recipes or do real work like producing, you can tell it to produce slideshows and all sorts of things like that. Now Gemini is Google's product. That's their AI engine, and it's available for free on Google. So that's one of the nice advantages of that. And as we can kind of see, let me bring this up full screen here. This is what it looks like on Google. So you ask it a question now, and you may have noticed this if you started using it. It gives you an AI answer first. So now it doesn't do it for all things. but it will give you these AI answers, like to switch views from, I was asking how do I switch a view from presenter display on my Apple. So it gave me an AI explanation. Sometimes that's a lot of help. I don't have to do any further than that. It gave me Apple's website, which I can go to look it up. It even gave me a YouTube video. So that's really kind of the nice thing about this AI view that you get through Google's Gemini. So it's doing the kind of the combination of giving you words and giving you the actual what information you're looking for. And it's free, so you can try that one, no charge. Copilot by Microsoft is their AI engine. I mentioned that they're building that plant or reopening 3 Mile Island to power their AI. Now it's integrated into all their Office 360 products, Word, Excel, PowerPoint that you're looking at right now. I've been using it a ton because of that. The AI is built in. I can tell you all these slides you're looking at were all produced by Copilot. So basically I produce the work that the images or the information that's on these slides was created in ChatGPT. I asked it to produce a talk on AI. And then I said to create a Word file. So it created a Word file. Then I put that into PowerPoint. I mean, that's not a Word file, a PowerPoint file. It created that file. I opened the file in PowerPoint, and then I use Copilot. And there's some videos that I talk about how I've done this for on my boot camp that you can look at. And anyway, so then I created my slides by using their Copilot, which actually made them fancy. You'll see a lot more of the slides that look. One of the things I never really liked about PowerPoint is I think everybody's slides start to look alike after a while, but and the same thing, a lot of these images coming through their AI are pretty similar, but it does produce some really stunning looking slides that I think are worth doing. Now, all the artwork that you saw was probably produced, most of the artwork was produced in Midjourney. All of it's been produced by AI. Nice thing about that, if you're giving a talk, in the old days, I used to have to pay $250 to a company to get what's called stock footage, stock photos, and they would give me the rights to use their photos in anything you produce commercially. If you're doing a talk or you're doing something like this, you want to have the rights. AI produced artwork is again, you've got the rights to use it because you're producing it based on your prompts, so it's really your work. Now, in this particular case, PowerPoint does make some of these their own stuff. It'll look at it and produce its own artwork. This particular one was produced by the product, the AI, and built in the Microsoft. Now, the real big reason I started to talk about this is it's AI in healthcare is going to be huge. It's already starting to enter in there, and it's going to just be more and more prominent. So Harvard Medical School, actually, you got time to still sign up if you want, it's got an informational talk or informational class on healthcare, and starts April 10th. It's going to have 18 weeks of online and live virtual talks about AI, 4 to 6 hours per week, only $5,000. Seems like a good price to go to Harvard. So anyway, you're going to see this more and more. So another thing here, I'm just going to bring this up to full screen here. It's going, a team from MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory is working on an AI model that can help predict the likelihood of a woman developing breast cancer. Get this, up to 5 years in advance. And the way this is done is by training it on a AI on just one particular thing that's looking at breast cancer. So the model learned from training on 90,000 mammograms to derive signs of common breast cancer patients to foresee subtle patterns in breast tissue. As a result, it was successful in identifying 31% of the cancer patients as high risk compared to 18% by traditional models. Traditional models we know as a mammography. This was another thing that really kind of hit me as I was reading through this article. And it's a couple of researchers that were looking at AI model to improve tumor removal accuracy during breast cancer surgery. And I was listening to this program, and it said that, the traditional way of doing a breast surgery is to go in there, you take out the tumor, usually lumpectomy, and then you think you've got good clean margins, and then you come back, after the patient comes back after surgery for their follow-up visit, they get the pathology report and they see that about 30% of those have tumor that's still there. It's not a tumor-free margin like they thought intraoperatively. So these guys decided that, then it's, you wait and watch, or do you go back in and get more tissue? So it's could be a second operation. They said we should have an AI pathologist right there in the OR. That's what they developed. So I'll talk a little bit about that.
During surgery, the surgeon will resect the tumor, also referred to as a specimen, and take a small amount of surrounding healthy tissue in an attempt to remove all of the cancer in the breast. The pathologist can determine whether cancer cells extend to the specimen's outer edge or pathological margin. If cancer cells are present on the edge of the tissue removed, there is a chance that additional cancer cells still remain in the breast. The surgeon might have to perform additional surgery to remove additional tissue to ensure the cancer has been completely removed. Author, Dr. Kevin Chen, general surgery resident in the Department of Surgery states, "We found that the AI model matched or slightly surpassed humans in identifying positive margins."
So there you go. The other place I think you're going to see it, pathology for sure. X-ray is another place you're going to see it.
When detecting lung cancer, AI has shown equal or even superior performance to human radiologists, especially when evaluating large volumes of images. It can detect subtle abnormalities that may be overlooked by a human. AI is much faster and can analyze hundreds of images in seconds. AI excels in pattern recognition and automated detection of common and repetitive conditions, such as fractures, pneumonia, and certain types of tumors. AI can achieve high levels of accuracy, especially in recognizing patterns like cancerous cells, tumors, or cell abnormalities. It can even exceed human pathologists in specific tasks like breast cancer detection, melanoma recognition, and prostate cancer grading.
So, if you think about it, a pathologist looks at slides all day long. X-ray radiologist is looking at those all day long. Just like all of us, we fatigue as we kind of go on in our day. And, maybe we get ourselves refueled with some coffee, but it's not always enough. And, AI never fatigues. It never gets tired. And it's as many X-rays as a radiologist has seen, they can show more to an AI bot, especially if you're focusing on, say, one particular thing that it's looking at. So radiologists are trained to see everything. They can train these to look at more specifics, like just chest X-rays. And that's what they're doing. This is going to keep continuing and be even a bigger presence. Now, Dr. Google, well, I know a lot of people go to Google to try to look up their own symptoms and figure out what's going on. But I think what we're really pushing at is what's changed in medicine recently is called telehealth. So you get online and you talk to your doctor or your nurse practitioner, they review every symptoms and things and make a diagnosis all over online. But that can be done also through an AI with the assistance of an AI or totally by an AI. And there was a study that I was reading that was really interesting about how people thought about this AI. I'm going to bring that in here.
There have been several studies comparing telemedicine using AI versus human doctors, focusing on diagnosis accuracy, patient satisfaction, and treatment outcomes. One of the most notable was a 2023 study published in JAMA Internal Medicine, which evaluated how well AI-powered chatbots performed compared to human physicians in answering patient questions. Diagnosis accuracy: AI models such as ChatGPT-4 were able to provide correct diagnoses in many cases, sometimes matching or exceeding human doctors in accuracy. Patient satisfaction: patients rated AI-generated responses as more empathetic and comprehensive than those of human doctors. Efficiency: AI could respond instantly, reducing wait times, while doctors required more time for each case. Limitations: AI lacked real-world experience, physical examination capability, and nuanced clinical judgment.
So that JAMA article was 2 years old, and I just today was looking at an article on the same thing, and it said that the diagnosis abilities of these chatbots is 10% better than the physicians can do. So it's actually outstripping doctors in their ability to diagnose. Now, as it did point out, there's something that kind of comes with physical exams, but we're doing this as telehealth, so there is no physical exam either. Experience, things like that matter. But I can tell you that, the study actually looked at, and this is the most interesting part, is what people thought about the bots versus the humans. And they didn't know. It was a blinded study, so they didn't know who they were talking to. But when they rated them, they thought that the telehealth bot was much more empathetic, took more time to listen to them, more listening. So, it's going to be one of those things that's going to be definitely going forward. We're going to see more and more of it. Now, you might say that how can a AI bot, kind of disguise itself so that you don't even know it's them? Well, a lot of these voices that you've heard throughout this are all generated, except for me so far, are all generated by AI. These are all AI voices. So none of those are real humans that were dictating to those slides. Those were all produced by a company. Now, I have to admit there's a better quality AI than I use, but it costs more money. So I don't want to, I'm pretty happy with what I'm using right now. But if I wanted to pay more, I could come closer. So I did go to get you some information. This is a company called Revoicer out there. There's another one called 11 Labs that are producing voices that I think are so identical to humans that it's going to be hard to tell who is who. So let's listen to that one.
And I'm one of the AI voices from Revoicer. My voice sounds so natural because I understand exactly the meaning of each phrase. So I know how to add inflections in my voice, just like a real human would do. Did you catch that? I know when to add pauses, breathing sounds, giggle, or even add or ahs. I can analyze the content that you enter, so I'll understand when I'm enumerating something, when I have to emphasize a word, or when I need to speak slower or faster.
That's AI generated, folks. I mean, I couldn't tell that was somebody really out there. One of the other things that's kind of a concern is they can record your voice, or you can record your own voice, and then just type in what you want it to say. Plus, these things are really good at, because of the large language models, of thinking the answers through something human sounding to come back with. So you could basically go and listen or take some of my talks that I've given, use my voice, train the AI, and then fool it to call my wife up and say, honey, what was the credit card numbers? I forgot to bring my credit card and they needed it at the bank. And it would sound just like me. Now, because of that, I can tell you that my wife and I have a safe word. If any time I were to ask her over a phone where it's not me and live about some kind of financial information, she'll ask me for my safe word. And if I don't give the right word, she'll know it's a robot. So there's ways to trick them a little bit, but keep that in mind, because going forward, they're going to be able to really manipulate us when they're able to kind of model our loved ones too. Now, AI is getting it everywhere. So it's I showed art, but it can produce music, it can produce writing, it can write poems, it can write books, and these are all originals. So it leads for a lot of ethical concerns. One of the concerns is bias, because these are trained by humans. And if somebody is right-leaning that's training them, the AI bot may be more right-leaning. If somebody's left-leaning, it could be more left-leaning, or moderate, it could be more moderate. That's what you'd hope for. People worry about job displacement, and, of course, privacy issues is always a big thing. And AI is going so fast that the legislation can't keep up with it. So they can't write the laws to kind of figure out what they need to do. One of the questions out there is the concern about the artwork. Is this stealing artwork because I said Bob Ross's style? Is it using Bob Ross and ripping him off? Maybe, maybe not. So until it goes to court and somebody rules on that, they're not going to be able to have an answer. And both sides are a little worried. AI doesn't really want to have their stuff shut down. On the other hand, if the lawsuit came back and said, no, that's really strictly promptology and not anything to do with the artist, so that artwork really is yours, there'll be a lot of artists out of work. Now, the thing we talked about, people out of work, this is nothing new. Industrial revolution, we got men and and women out of the factories doing everything by hand and mechanized it with machinery. People didn't lose their jobs, they just changed their jobs. And I think that's the way I foresee AI. I think that although AI is going to be utilized more and more, especially like I said in medicine, it's still going to require somebody with the training to kind of follow up and make sure that what it's saying is actually right and not a hallucination. So I think it's going to be more of a collaborative arrangement than taking over for us. So we always look at what's the future. So I've got a few things to kind of predict about the future, and I'll talk about those. I did want to mention this because I just found this out just recently. Elon Musk, if you haven't heard of Elon Musk, you live under a stone somewhere because he's in everything. But he produced this thing called Grok. That's their AI engine. And they just came up with their AI Grok version 3. Now, Grok 3 is quote unquote supposed to be the most powerful AI ever produced. And so the big thing I'm going to share, I'm going to bring Grok up here for you to look at, because the one thing is he's also made it at this point, it's going to be free. So you can see right up here, it says Grok 3 beta. Let me make this full screen here. So you're really looking at the, no, see, I didn't get that. Hang on a second. Let me try to make that full screen. There we go. Trying to switch between 2 different screens. So you can see up here, Grok 3 beta. That was supposed to be about a $200 a year cost to have. Right now it's free. They said until they don't make it free. And here you can see I did my chocolate chip recipe. I asked it to produce that. Very similar ingredients. Works very similar. Now I'm going to do something here kind of cool. The one thing about ChatGPT is if I asked it to draw a picture, it couldn't do that. But this one can. So Grok can make pictures too. It just asking for an image instead of a statement. So I'm asking it for an image of Donald Trump boxing with Zelensky. Too soon? I don't know. But I just wanted to show you that it can do that, just like Midjourney. The images are pretty good. I have to say I still prefer Midjourney over the Grok, but I mean, let's just bring that up full speed there. We can kind of see it looks like Trump and Zelensky ready to duke it out. Another one of Trump and Zelensky trying to get ready to duke it out. So very similar as the other AIs that I've talked about, but free. That's kind of the real crux to it. So let me bring myself back in here, and there we go. So the last thing I want to leave you before I call this to an end is what the types of AI are. So there's really 3 types of AI, artificial intelligence. And right now, everything I've talked about, everything that's out there is called narrow AI, meaning it does one task. So whether it be drawing art, doing music, reading x-rays, these are single tasks. And that's what it's called, narrow AI. So they're trained to do what, the one thing and one thing only. Now, as Grok showed, it can do images and the other, so they're become wider trained, but they're still considered narrow AI. The next thing that we're going to see is something called general AI. That's what they're working on right now. It's not out. So as Hinton had said, the AI is not as smart, cannot do as many processes as the human brain. But when you get to general AI, it will. It's going to be able to have the same amount of processing power as our own brain, and probably be as intelligent as our own brains. Just better way of organizing it through the algorithms and sometimes how some of stuff we organize in our brains. So general AI could be as smart as us. The final thing is something called super intelligent AI. Super intelligent AI is theoretical, but so was AI theoretical back in the 50s when our buddy Turing was talking about it. So super intelligent AI would be an AI that could actually exceed our own intelligence, be smarter than us. And the concern is, could it someday take over for us? And that's always, we see plenty of that out in Hollywood, but could be hasta la vista once that becomes part of our show, our AI future. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns, go ahead and use the comment box. I'll be glad to answer any of those. I hope you enjoyed this. I think AI was just kind of, to me, it was a time to talk about it a little bit more, and especially I think where it's going in healthcare. It's interesting. I've done a few talks on AI, and I can't even like go back and use the slides from the previous AI talk because it changes so much. And I think that even this one will be dated in probably 6 months. Things are going to be so different, but it's fun to play with. I definitely encourage people to go out there and just kind of try it out. I think the Grok, if you don't know where the Grok is, just go to x.com. That's Twitter. And you'll see a spot that says Grok on the side. And you just go ahead and click that, and you'll be able to try Grok out. And again, you can ask it recipes, you can ask it all sorts of questions. To get a comment coming in from Diane Clowers. Thanks, fascinating. Thanks, Diane. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So, but definitely go out there and try it. And if you're like me, play with the art because you can come up with some crazy things. It's really interesting. One thing I didn't show in Midjourney is I actually could take a picture of myself, a real photograph, put it in the Midjourney, and tell it to age me or take years away or make me like supermodel. It'll do all that kind of stuff from a real image. So it's kind of cool. So, all right. I don't see any other comments coming in. So I'm going to, let's see, put a little plug in for next week. Next week, we're going to have a great show again for you. So be sure to join us for this.
Catheter-associated urinary tract infections are one of the most common healthcare-acquired infections and are associated with increased mortality, prolonged hospitalizations, the development of antibiotic resistance, and increased antibiotic use. This presentation reviews CAUTI, alternatives to indwelling urinary catheters, and proper insertion and maintenance. Dr. Melissa Forgan, an advanced practice provider nurse specialist, provides expert insights on catheter-associated urinary tract infections, addressing risk factors, prevention strategies, and best practices for reducing infections. Join us next week to learn more.
So yeah, join us next week. Not only are you going to learn about CAUTI, but this one is also going to be good for 1 hour's worth of contact hours. So you'll be able to apply for the contact hours. We've been trying to offer as many contact hours as possible throughout the year. I think that I know for myself, I'm licensed in Illinois. We require 20 hours. I think it's 20 hours a year to re-up our license when it comes up for renewal. Also, if you're certified, such as urology nursing, or any other certification that you might have, they also require CEs and contact hours to keep those up, and take usually a lot more hours. So it's a great way to get them, and they're free. So be sure to join us next week for that, and hope you continue to enjoy UroNurse. Got a few more comments coming in before I go off the air. Thanks, Raj. I'm glad that you liked it. And Charlene, AI is with us. You got that right. So see everybody next week for that contact hour on CAUTI. Have a good week.